Sammy, go on, you go, mate.
First day in school, is it?
It is a bit like that. Didn't know where to park, didn't know to get in, and didn't know where to go. So found a park, eventually someone let me in the door and away we go.
So specifically, Gary, what is your role?
I'm going to advise the board after sort of immersing myself in the football department and trying to understand what the issues are, if in fact they are there, and I think we all agree that we've got a few things that we need sorting out, and liaise with the board, try and put in some recommendations that can hopefully sort it out, and after that it's you make it up on the fly.
What's the first thing that needs to be sorted?
Well, look, I spoke to the players for 2 minutes. And we made sure they're gone before they saw all this, because this is about them, At the end of the day, a footy club, essentially the most important group is your players. So for them, it's to clear their heads. It's certainly not about me, contrary to what some would suggest, is to go in and just, confirm to them that we're a clean slate here, and we want them to concentrate on footy, to put in place an environment that allows them to do that. And look, I've been there. I mean, I've been through it as a player, and it can be difficult. But I just said to smile, boys. You've got a pretty good job. You're doing what you love, and let's get out and have some fun. So, just rebuild trust, and the relationships, if they need to be rebuilt, need to be rebuilt.
Is part of this just to show a bit of a familiar face to fans who might be going through a bit of doubt, a bit of worry about where the club's at?
Well, if that helps the fans, great. But no, that's not the reason. The reason is that, the footy club, for reasons that I think everyone's familiar with, haven't had a footy director for the whole of this season, since Andrew Lyon stepped down. Now, as I continue to sort of work and talk to people, I mean, that has been a bit of an issue. And God love, our great president and Don, who's done an amazing job, but, it was asking too much of them to be able to do both roles. So we've got to sort that out.
You're obviously a very close friend to him. You speak to Jim all the time.
Yeah.
As a mate, do you think it would be best for him and maybe for the club for him to stand down?
There's no one in footy I know who's earned the right to make that call more than Jim. What I'm doing now is hopefully lightening some of the really heavy load that he's carried, and look, my own personal preference in all of this, and as much as we all love footy and all that, is for him to be right and to have as much time to be able to do that and clear his head. If he comes to that conclusion, fantastic. I would recommend that he goes and gets himself right whilst forever maintaining his place in this footy club. But if he turns around and says, and I've got to be really clear on this, we watched the press conference and all those sorts of things, and I felt a bit uncomfortable. He wants to do that. Jim wants to do that. He wanted to do the press conference. Don tells me, I got a message from him this morning. He's feeling better, wants to be at the game on the weekend. I'm not turning around and telling him, you're not coming to a game of footy, Jim. No one's got that right. So we can put in place some things, I know I'm answering long, to help him, but in the end he makes the call.
Gary, as you mentioned, as a player you went through some tumultuous times in the club. Do you feel like it's at that level you're going to go and you're going to go, there's a lot of divisions in this club that have got to be sorted? Well,
I'm going to find out, Jules. And I'm like you guys, I've been sitting outside, again, contrary to what you believe, and I'm a Melbourne person, make no mistake, but I was a little bit shocked to hear some of the things that you hear. Now, whether they're right or not, I don't know. So, I'll go and we'll sort of find out for myself.
Sorry, Gary.
Yeah, go on.
Got to say in 3 or 4 months, you don't want to go into next season. Is that enough time though, or is it a bit naive to think you can help iron out a few?
Could be naive, Sammy, no doubt. And mate, I'm telling you now, I never put my hand up and said I'm going to sort this out in 3 or 4 months. So, I've heard presidents of other clubs who, for whatever reason, want to offer opinion, and that's great, and some of what they've said is right. But I've been very, very clear, and will continue to be clear, that I can't do this job as a director of football and work in the roles that I do. And you guys would understand this. I've just spent 4 days doing everything contrary to what I want to do in my job that I'm paid to do really well. So I'm hosing down on the one side a footy show that I'd normally be pursuing onto a story, and on the other side I'm sort of going, right, let's lock down and shut up. So you tell me, you blokes, for whatever reason, people make their own mind, I ain't doing that. So I'll go as hard as I can. But look, I'm really hopeful that sooner rather than later we can identify whoever the footy director is, and the two of us will work through this, and hopefully it's seamless. But mate, I don't profess to know the answers.
What do you feel about what Jeff Kennett said about you? Yes,
I think I've been pretty clear. In that. Look, and I know this is I really like Jeff, but Jeff has got plenty to say on other footy clubs, and a couple of things that I took real exception to, and that's why I had my say last night. He can proffer opinion on whether or not he thinks I'm capable, whether or not, the question about whether I'm there for long enough, and that's okay. That's not my concern. I'm concerned with the footy club, and they've asked me to do it. But when he, starts making these statements that I've been undermining the coach of the footy club for 3 months, which he made that statement, well, I'm not copping that. And you people may, let that ride through because it's good for everyone. Well, I'm not. So, I've had my say. And look, he might have another crack today, but I'm telling you after today, from my own point of view, it's head down and away we go.
Is he a bull?
What's that?
Is he a bull?
I think I said he's got bullying tendencies, didn't I? I didn't, and look, you know what he's like. You blokes know what he's like. He's robust and, he's outspoken, and you've got to stand up at some stage. And this footy club's got to stand up. This is what it's about. And I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not sort of sitting by like that. And, I think I've had enough to say on Jeff.
Gary, this was the disconnect, you reckon, between the fact that when Leoncelli steps down and there is no sort of...
Yeah.
Do you feel that's been critical of this?
Look.
For Dean and for Trivey and everyone involved?
Possibly, Steve. I'm not and I've said this a lot too, I'm not a footy politic person, so I don't understand, obviously, intimately how it all works. I'm quickly finding out. I'm on a crash course right now. But it is really important to have someone who is that sort of conduit between the footy department and the board. And it comes down to all sorts of issues, of accountability and being able to go to someone if you've got some, and look, I'm saying Don and Jim have made themselves available above and beyond. They've wiped debt, they've done all those great things. But, I think that football director role needs to be filled, and I think it hasn't helped yet.
You've got knowledge of the past players, you would know of the pool of likely candidates. Do you think you might also have a hand in seeking out the next director?
Well, what I did on Wednesday was go to Officeworks and buy a diary, because I haven't had one for that long, and you can't find a 2011 diary, I'm telling you, and it's filled up that quick, it's not funny. And that is past players, that is players I haven't heard from, that is good footy people, all the other usual suspects that you've got to talk to, and that's been really heartening, so we'll see what happens.
Might it be an idea to actually get someone not with a Melbourne background?
Might be, yeah, it might be. We've got a really strong Melbourne flavour, and look, when you haven't, people say you need Melbourne people who understand, and when you've got what seem to be too many, you need some outside. So it is a balance, but you got to get the best person.
Garry, is Alistair Clarkson being looked after at Hawthorn?
Is what?
Is Alistair Clarkson being looked after at Hawthorn?
Is he being looked after? You'd have to ask Jeff, wouldn't you? Are we looking at Alistair Clarkson?
No, is he being looked after at Hawthorn?
What
Would he be better looked after at
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand. Alistair Clarkson's doing an unbelievable job. I mean, that footy club's in fantastic shape, so I don't think there's any worries about that.
Gary, will you sit down with Tom Scully and his parents or his management pretty much straight away and try and get to the bottom of that?
Look, that falls under the umbrella of footy director or whatever it is I am. So yes, I'd like to, absolutely. I'll talk to his manager. I mean, Tom's been pretty clear about where he sits with all that, but I'd like to just, for my own benefit, hear where it's at, and just make sure that we as a footy club have done everything we can for Tom, which, look, I think we have, but if he's been unsettled a little bit by the events that have unfolded, then I want to talk to him about that and try and just reassure him that, this is the place that he needs to be.
He's made a decision to go now. Do you want to know?
Well, that's not my understanding, and nothing I've heard. Now, again, I'm like all you people. We sit and make our own judgments, but I can look Tom in the eye, and if he tells me that, then we'll work on the premise that we're going to work hard to keep him.
Gary, is there a chance that you might actually fall in love with what you're doing and being back involved with the footy club again? And
Not with you, Shebeck, so I won't.
no, with the job. Not with me.
No. And look, and this is the other thing that I get a bit bemused about. I mean, I've resisted doing this for I don't know how many times. So to suggest that I'm huffing and puffing and all that sort of stuff, this is not what I really want to do. But now that I'm here, I'm all guns blazing, if you like. But no, as in the start of next footy season, we will have, this is the game plan anyway, to have, and I've been told that I'll be here for 10 years, but we will have a football director that hopefully has been in transition, and we've sat together and worked through, it might be for a couple of months, so that it's reasonably seamless.
In terms of an ex-senior coach, Garry, do you reckon an experienced seasoned head is the right way to go forward?
Well, this is for your news services. We'll get the best available coach.
Your feelings are known on it though, Gary. Your feelings or tendencies are known.
Yeah.
At this point, you would favour.
Well, what you're saying is that in the past, as a commentator and someone who writes articles, I've written about it, and that is the perspective of a football observer, if you like. Now, when you get in here at the club, you got to understand the list. You got to understand more intimately, and then you make the judgment call. But yeah, well, it's a standard line, but I think it's the right line. You get the best available.
What do you want to see from the team tomorrow, Garry?
Well, I just want. Well, Todd Viney will ensure that they compete from the start of the game to the end. I think. Well, that's the intention. And look, I've just talked to Melbourne supporters who've been good enough to come down here, and you ask them, how things are going, and they just say we want to see them trying. We want to see them absolutely competing, start to finish. So that's all we can ask, and that's there's plenty of incentive for tomorrow. It doesn't mean much when the ball's bounced. You can write all you like about how teams perform after the coaches are sacked and what Carlton has said in the past and all that. It doesn't stand for much when the ball's bounced.
Do you accept, Garry, that Mick Malthouse is off limits for next year? Do you accept that, or you're going to try and get first hand? Yeah, no, again, I take Nick for his word. And I saw yesterday on the news that he was absolutely emphatic that he's not going to coach next year. If that ever changes, then of course we want to talk to Mick Malthouse. No question about that. Would you speak to him personally?
No, I won't.
First hand?
No, I won't speak to Mick, no.
Why not?
Well, I think you've got to respect where he's at. I mean, we'll sort through what we need to do, but I won't be approaching any coaches who are still coaching.
Just quickly, you still do a short game Triple M stuff tomorrow?
Yes, Sammy.
Yeah.
You know what game we've got.
Continue doing that sort of. Obviously, a few guys have gone before you in this sort of seat, but
I'm going to take my lead from the Chief, who I admire enormously, and he'll be my inspiration and role model. No, I am going to call the game tomorrow, but Melbourne have got 4 Sunday games after that one, which means I'll be able to go to all of them without having to work. So that's just one. It's one of the things you've got to deal with tomorrow, and I hope you're all listening and see how unbiased I am, and that's what I'll be. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Thanks.